Welcome back to Reddit Whispers. I'm going to tell you a story, and it's a hard one to tell. It's about the kind of pain that rewrites you, the kind of betrayal that makes you question the very ground you walk on. My fiancé of 9 years cheated on me, and now I am livid, but that single word, livid, feels like trying to describe a black hole with a single grain of sand. It's a start, but it doesn't even begin to capture the terrifying, all-consuming vastness of it. 9 years. Think about that. We were 19 and 20 when we met. She is the only partner I've ever had. My entire adult life has been mapped out with her in it. Every dream, every plan, every quiet moment of contentment was built around the foundational certainty of us. We weren't just a couple, we were an ecosystem. We had our own language, a lexicon of shared jokes and silent understandings. I knew the specific pitch of her sigh that meant she'd had a bad day at work versus the sigh that meant she was just tired. I knew that she secretly loved the terrible action movies I'd put on, even though she'd protest, because she'd lean into my shoulder just a little bit more during the explosions. I knew the precise way to make her tea when her cramps were bad, a ritual I had perfected over nearly a decade of wanting to absorb her pain into myself. To see her in pain physically hurt me. It was a tangible ache in my own chest. The idea of marriage wasn't a question but an inevitability, the natural next step in a journey we'd been on since we were practically kids. I proposed on our 8th anniversary, in the little Italian restaurant where we'd had our first real date. I remember the way the candlelight caught the tears in her eyes, the tremulous smile on her lips. It was the purest moment of joy I had ever known. We were going to build a life, a home, a family. And then in a single night she took a sledgehammer to all of it. After the breakup, a profound silence descended. It was a heavy, suffocating quiet that filled every room of the house we had once shared. I grieved on my own, moving through the days like a ghost in my own life. The silence was a presence, a constant reminder of the vibrant noise of our life together that was now gone. Then 3 days ago, the silence was shattered by a knock on the door. It was her parents. I ignored them. I stood perfectly still in the living room, listening to their polite, then insistent, knocking, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. I couldn't face them. Their faces were too intertwined with hers, with the life that was now a ruin. They eventually left, but they didn't give up. The next day, they ambushed me at the one place I thought I was safe, the place I go to find peace, the church where I work. They were waiting for me in my small office, their faces etched with a worry that was so profound it momentarily eclipsed my own anger. They told me she was in the hospital. The words hung in the air, thick and unreal. She had been starving herself, they said, for days, refusing to eat, refusing treatment, withering away. Their request was bizarre, a plea wrapped in a disclaimer. They didn't want me to get back with her, they insisted, their eyes pleading with me to understand. They just wanted me to go and see her, to meet her, as if my presence could somehow be the medicine she was refusing. I told them I would think about it, a hollow promise to end an impossible conversation. And I have been thinking. My mind has become a battlefield. One part of me, the part that is still hopelessly wired to love her, to protect her, sees this as a gesture of ultimate remorse. The self-starvation, the hospitalization, it's a dramatic, terrifying, but perhaps sincere demonstration of her regret. It whispers to me that she might actually regret cheating, that she understands the magnitude of what she has lost. Maybe, just maybe, reconciliation is an option. This thought is a dangerous seed of hope, and it tries to root itself in the scorched earth of my heart. I find myself remembering the good times, the 9 years of laughter and support. I remember holding her hand in the car, her thumb tracing patterns on my skin. I remember the time she stayed up all night with me when I was sick with the flu, making me soup and changing my sweat-soaked sheets. I remember the future we planned, the names we'd half-jokingly picked out for our kids, the arguments over what color to paint the living room of a house we hadn't even bought yet. These memories are a warm current in the icy ocean of my present grief, and they are so tempting to swim back to. But then the other side of my mind, the wounded, rational side, screams back with a single, brutal question. If she was this attached to our relationship, if the thought of losing me could drive her to this, then why did she cheat in the first place? The logic is irrefutable, a cold, hard wall I keep slamming into. It doesn't make sense. And that's when the image comes back, unbidden and searingly clear. The image of her with him. This guy from a one-night stand. I don't know his face, his name, anything about him, which almost makes it worse. He is a phantom, a faceless representation of my deepest humiliation. My mind, in its cruelest moments, fills in the blanks. I see her in a stranger's bed, the same body I had cherished and protected, the same lips I had kissed 1,000 times, entangled with someone else. The thought is a physical violation. It steals my breath, tightens my chest, and leaves a metallic taste of sickness in my mouth. It plays on a loop, a horror film I am forced to watch over and over, and I contrast that imaginary scene with the reality of my devotion. I think of all the times I ran to the pharmacy late at night for her. I think of the heating pads, the back rubs, the gentle patience as she rode out the waves of pain that came with her period each month. It truly pained me to see her in pain. And now, the thought of her lying in a hospital bed, willfully inflicting this pain on herself, creates a terrifying conflict within me. Seeing her in that state, fragile and suffering, might break my resolve. The caretaker in me, the man who spent 9 years making her well-being his priority, might rise up and betray the man she betrayed. I might forget my own pain in the face of hers, and that is a frightening possibility. The betrayal has done more than just end a relationship. It has fundamentally altered my perception of reality. It's like a virus that has infected my entire operating system. I know, with absolute certainty, that I will need therapy to even begin to untangle the knots of paranoia and mistrust that have formed in my mind. The most disturbing symptom of this sickness is how it has poisoned my view of all women, even the one I should trust implicitly, my own mother. I find myself questioning her words, her intentions, simply because she is a woman. A lifetime of unconditional love and trust, eroded by the actions of one person. It's a terrifying thought that one person's betrayal can make you doubt the bedrock of your own family. If I choose to try reconciliation, if I walk back into that fire only to be burned again, I don't know how much more messed up I will get. I feel like I'm standing on a precipice, and the fall could shatter what's left of my sanity. To understand the precipice, you have to understand the push. It wasn't some slow-burning affair or a deep emotional connection with another man. It was, in some ways, worse. It was casual, thoughtless, and born from a place of profound insecurity. One of her friends, a woman I never particularly liked, had been in her ear for months. This friend is the kind of person who mistakes cynicism for wisdom and chaos for freedom. She kept pestering my ex, planting these toxic little seeds of doubt. She told her she was missing out by preparing for marriage, having only ever been with me. Missing out. As if our 9 years of shared history, our deep, intricate love, was a prison sentence. As if fidelity was a lack of experience. This friend invited her to her house one night. They drank, and there was a guy there, the brother of one of their other friends. And with this friend's poisonous words echoing in her mind, my fiancé, the woman I was going to spend my life with, had a one-night stand with him. She was under the influence, yes, but that feels like such a flimsy excuse. Alcohol doesn't create new desires. It just lowers the inhibitions on the ones that are already there. The thought that those words, "you're missing out," could hold more power over her than 9 years of my love and commitment is a difficult pill to swallow. It makes me question everything we had. Was our life together so mundane, so lacking, that the allure of a meaningless encounter with a stranger was enough to make her throw it all away? The pain of that question is a constant, low-grade fever in my soul. I've tried to piece it together, to understand the chain of events. I imagine her at that house, the music too loud, the alcohol flowing. I see this friend whispering in her ear, validating a curiosity that should have been dismissed. I see the guy, a convenient opportunity, and I see my love, my partner, making a choice. A choice to betray me, to betray us. And for what? To not miss out. What did she gain that was worth the devastation she has caused? The sheer banality of the betrayal is what gnaws at me. It wasn't a crime of passion, it was a crime of insecurity, fueled by a toxic friendship and cheap booze. And now I'm left to deal with the fallout, a psychological contamination that has spread to every corner of my life. I work at the church, once a source of solace, now feels fraught. I find myself analyzing the friendly smiles of my female colleague, searching for hidden meanings, for potential threats. I doubt their kindness, second-guess their intentions. It's exhausting. I am living in a state of high alert, my trust in half the human population completely shattered. And this is the man who is contemplating reconciliation. This is the man who is supposed to rebuild a life with the woman who broke him. The fear is immense. If I take her back, what does our future look like? Will I ever be able to trust her again when she goes out with her friends? Will I flinch every time she has a drink? Will every text message from a name I don't recognize send a jolt of panic through my system? A relationship without trust is a prison. I would become her warden and she my prisoner. That's not love. That's a sentence we would serve together. The risk of being betrayed again is too great. The first time has nearly destroyed me. A second time would be the end. I'm not just deciding whether to give her another chance. I am deciding whether to gamble with my own soul. It's a wager I'm not sure I can afford to lose. The pain is too deep, the wound too fresh. Rebuilding from this would require a strength I don't think I possess right now. The idea of her in that hospital bed pulls at my heart, but the memory of her betrayal is a shield that keeps me from getting too close. I am caught between my instinct to heal her and my desperate need to heal myself. And right now, I don't know if it's possible to do both. In the midst of this emotional hurricane, my mind, in a desperate attempt to find a path forward, started to build a logical framework. A what-if scenario. What if I did visit her? What if, against all odds, we decided to try again? The thought alone is exhausting, but I let myself entertain it, if only to prove to myself that I had considered every angle. And as I did, a list of conditions began to form, a set of non-negotiable terms for any potential reconciliation. These weren't born from a desire for revenge, but from a primal need for self-preservation. The first condition was immediate and absolute, a prenuptial agreement. Before the betrayal, the very idea would have felt like an insult, a cold, cynical intrusion into the sacred space of our commitment. Our love was supposed to be the only contract we needed. But her actions had burned that assumption to the ground. A prenup now seemed like the only rational choice. It wasn't about the money, not really. It was about creating a tangible consequence, a firewall to protect me from being completely incinerated if she did this again. It was a formal acknowledgement that the trust which once formed the bedrock of our relationship was gone, and in its place, we would need legal documents and clauses. The prenup would be a constant, paper-and-ink reminder of her betrayal, a scar woven into the very fabric of our renewed marriage. It felt clinical and loveless, but so did the thought of being left with nothing but shattered trust and financial ruin a second time. It was a symbol of a new, sadder, more cautious love, one that hoped for the best but was legally prepared for the worst. The second condition was just as stark: no more alcohol. This felt direct, a way to attack the catalyst, the lubricant for her bad decision. I found myself dissecting her relationship with drinking. Was that night truly a one-off, a perfect storm of bad advice and too many glasses of wine? Or was it a symptom of something deeper? Had I missed signs? Were there other nights where she drank too much, where her judgment became blurry? The questions multiplied, each one feeding my anxiety. Forbidding alcohol was an attempt to seize control, to eliminate the variable that had led to our destruction. But even as I formulated the rule, I could see the cracks in it. Could I really enforce it? Would I become the kind of partner who counts drinks, who watches her every move at a party? The idea repulsed me. It would change our dynamic forever, casting me in the role of a stern parent rather than an equal partner. It was a desperate measure, an attempt to bubble wrap our future, but it felt suffocating and unsustainable. The third condition targeted the source of the infection. She would have to cut that toxic friend out of her life completely. No more calls, no more texts, no more late-night chats that planted seeds of discontent. This was non-negotiable. I saw this friend as the serpent in our Eden, the one who whispered poison into her ear. True remorse in my mind would have to include a full rejection of the influences that led her astray. She would have to choose. It would be a definitive test of her loyalty. Would she cling to the friendship that encouraged her betrayal, or would she choose the man she betrayed? I knew it would be a fight. She had defended this friend in the past, blind to her manipulative nature. But for me, it was a clear line in the sand. I would not, build a future with her if the architect of our ruin was still a welcome guest in our lives. The final condition was the most rational, the one thing that felt like a step toward actual healing: counseling, both individual and couples therapy. I knew I was broken and needed professional help to even begin processing the trauma. And she needed to understand the deep-seated insecurity that made her so susceptible to the idea that she was missing out. And then there would be us. The thought of sitting in a sterile office with a stranger, trying to piece back together the shattered fragments of our 9-year history, was daunting. Could we really fix this? Could a therapist give me a tool to erase the mental image of her with another man? Could they teach her how to earn back a trust that had been so completely annihilated? I was skeptical. It felt like trying to glue together a shattered mirror. Even if you could get all the pieces back in place, you would never be able to look at the reflection without seeing the cracks. These conditions, laid out in my mind, formed a kind of desperate roadmap, a path I could potentially walk if I chose to see her. But the more I looked at it, the more I realized it wasn't a path to the life we once had. It was a path to a different, lesser life. A life governed by legal documents, sobriety checks, social edicts, and scheduled emotional excavations. It was a life built not on joy and trust, but on fear and probation. And the most terrifying part was, for a few agonizing days, I was actually considering it. I was so desperate to reclaim the past that I was willing to sacrifice the future, to accept a version of love that was more about damage control than genuine connection. The woman in that hospital bed held a terrible power over me, the power of our shared history, and she was pulling me toward a future I knew, deep down, I didn't want. I'm not sure when the shift happened. It wasn't a single, dramatic moment of clarity. It was more like the slow turning of a kaleidoscope, the same fractured pieces of information gradually rearranging themselves into a completely new pattern. I was sitting in my office at the church, the silence heavy around me, replaying the conversation with her parents for the 100th time. Their desperate faces, their careful words. "We don't want you to get back with her. We just want you to meet her." I was turning the phrase over and over, and then a new, cold thought slid into my mind, uninvited and sharp as a shard of glass. I realized that I never even considered that she was trying to blackmail or guilt me back into the relationship. Until that moment, I had only seen her actions, her self-starvation, as a gesture of remorse and a show of sincerity. I saw it as the ultimate expression of her pain at losing me. But what if it wasn't about her pain? What if it was about mine? What if this entire horrifying spectacle was designed to elicit a specific response from me? Guilt, pity, a crushing sense of responsibility. The thought was chilling. It reframed everything. Her dramatic decline wasn't a cry of regret, it was a calculated move. A manipulative high-stakes gambit designed to force my hand, send the parents as emissaries, report the life-threatening condition, make him feel responsible, make him come. The realization washed over me, a wave of icy water, and with it came a profound sense of shame. This makes me feel so naive. I had been so caught up in my own grief, so blinded by the memory of the woman I loved, that I couldn't see the woman she had become. The woman who would rather weaponize her own body than honestly confront the consequences of her actions. The woman who would put her own parents through the hell of watching their daughter waste away, all as part of a ploy to reel me back in. I saw it clearly now. Her suicide attempt wasn't an apology. It was a demand. It was the most toxic form of emotional blackmail. If I went to her, if I gave in, what kind of precedent would that set? Anytime she didn't get her way, anytime we had a disagreement, would I have to live in fear of a repeat performance? Our relationship wouldn't be a partnership. It would be a hostage negotiation, and my love would be the ransom. It was not a gesture of remorse. It was a gesture of control. After the initial shock of this epiphany, a strange sense of calm settled over me. After calming down and thinking it through rationally, I knew what I had to do. The storm inside me had passed, and in the quiet aftermath, my decision was clear and solid. I would not see her. I would not participate in her manipulative theater. I would not allow my empathy to be used as a weapon against me. It was a sad, quiet resolution, devoid of anger or triumph. It was simply the acceptance of a painful truth. The woman I had planned to spend my life with was gone, replaced by a stranger I could never trust. As for her parents, the final loose end, I couldn't bring myself to feel anger towards them. They were just parents, terrified for their child and willing to do anything to save her. I wouldn't feel right to trespass them from the house of God. My office is a place of sanctuary, and that extends to them, even if they are messengers in a war I no longer wish to fight. So I made a plan. If they decide to pester me at my office again, I will welcome them. I will offer them a seat, I will listen patiently to whatever they have to say, and then I will calmly, firmly, and kindly affirm my decision. I will not engage in arguments. I will not defend my choice. I will simply state my truth and wish them and their daughter peace. I am taking back control. My life will not be dictated by her self-destruction. My future will not be held hostage by her past. The 9 years we shared will always be a part of me, a bittersweet chapter in my story. But it's time to turn the page. It's time to start writing a new chapter, one where I am the author of my own piece. If you've made it this far, I'd love to hear from you. What moment in your life made you see someone for who they truly were? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to Reddit Whispers, where the real stories get told.